Dunbar with the Black Timeline. I must admit that I am distraught by my recent oversight that was brought to my attention by my brother Wale. He asked me, why did I start our story at enslavement when that wasn't our start? I'm flabbergasted. I started at enslavement as it is done at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. But I must agree that life before enslavement is a central topic not to cover first. It leaves a bad first impression in younger minds, in learning minds, that our start was enslavement. As I stated before, I encourage suggestions. We're learning this together. I am no African history expert, but my task is to help keep that history alive. I'll do that by feeding you key information that's easy to digest, sparking your interest to dig deeper. I may dive deeper in a select topic. I may revisit a topic at a later date to go more in detail. Suppressing a people's history suppresses their progression. It suppresses their future. Imagine, you went to college for years to master something. You graduate. You've been practicing your craft for 9 going on 10 years. On the 10th year, I wipe your memory of all your past. How do you proceed? When a civilization falls, its history falls with it. We were kings and queens before that fall, before enslavement. Africans had tremendous wealth. They had to be some of the first, if not the first, to discover gold. They had so much gold, they buried their dead in it. Africans had kingdoms, empires. They had magnificent pyramids, temples, ruins, sculptures, learning centers, said to have had the first learning center ever known. They were masters in chemistry, architecture, mathematics, medicine, astronomy, the list goes on. There's findings that Africans discovered the Americas hundreds of years before Christopher Columbus. They traveled there to trade. They had trade relations with China, with India. It was the golden age, and all the talk of how wealthy Africa was eventually made its way to the Europeans and got them interested in visiting there. Some African kings and queens. Mansa Musa, West Africa's king in the 1300s, the richest man of all time. In today's money, he would be sitting at about $500 billion, a half of a trillion. He would visit a place and spend so much gold that it would crash their economy.
Come through like a boss.
Shamba designed a democratic government. Tiye, Nubian queen of Egypt. Funny story, I didn't quite connect that Egypt was in Africa for most of my life. Embarrassed to admit, but I figured I'd keep things real because it will be a learning point for someone else. But I'm still doing research on Wakanda's location. Moment of silence. Tiye, Nubian queen of Egypt, ruled with the same authority as a man. First queen to have her name on official acts. Hannibal, one of the greatest generals of all time. Nefertari, Nubian queen of Egypt, married the Pharaoh of Egypt to end conflict between Nubia and Egypt. Peace was the initial motive, but they grew on one another. A lot. Afonso, early to mid 1500s, modernized Africa, established politics, first ruler to resist the slave trade. Shaka, got chills, baby. Early 1800s, master of warfare, weapons, and war tactics. Akhenaton, Pharaoh of Egypt, Queen Nefertari at his side, first ruler to believe in one God. Cleopatra, co-ruler at 17, queen at 18, one of Africa's greatest female rulers, Menelik, king of kings. He joined a group of kingdoms into an empire, Ethiopia. Now that's only a few kings and queens. There were also villages, and most African tribes had a noble class, rich in heritage, culture. They looked out for one another. Africa has slavery in its history, but they did not believe in the slaves being inferior. Most slaves were captured in war. They were treated as family. Earning freedom was possible and common. Plantation slavery was on another level. You see, enslavement was not the start of the African people. Black people. Africa is the start of all. Know where you came from. Understand where you're at. Take control of where you're going. Subscribe.